Thank you so much. This really today, if you're not familiar with that, is the launching of our 5th year for this series. We started if I'm good in counting, started 2013, and we had the mayor do the opening presentation. And anyone who was there in 2013 opening first, please stand up. Yeah, these are the people who really helped me get it started. So I mean, I knew they were there because they were the ones who helped get it started. And I really want to thank them. And all 3 of them are on our department industrial advisory board. They've contributed so much to our vision and success and adaptation to things that we need to do. So I want to thank them again, but also remember that I don't like to talk about competition. Our competitors, just somewhere in the state, had a series ahead of us, but they folded out the series. So we're able to sustain it, and guess what? Because of you coming here and because of our partners. And today we have fewer partners, so if you are a potential partner, please don't hesitate to talk to us. We are very convenient about your support financially. We are adaptable. If you tell me I can only afford that, we will do it. But we want to see your name in the back of this sheet as a partner. Today is Information Builders and DMD, data systems, but we have more people in general who have partnered with us. And if you look at the website, ciolouisville.org, you can see historically, we never forget you. If you helped us one day, we love you, you know? And one thing is, engaging you is very important. We like you to give us ideas about what you want to hear about. So please contact me or contact anyone who helps me, like Holly and Bart and Greg, to tell us about topics or people. And I am glad to tell you that we have tentatively some speakers for May and August, not fully finalized, so I don't want to announce their names until they are finalized. And we're always looking for ideas and for people. So please do this. And if you also feel someone should have been with you, invited here, and we didn't invite them, please let us know. Because if you notice this time it was by invitation only. If your email was not there, it won't let you register, you know? So we're trying to make it not elitist, but to have relevant guests, you know? We don't want to open it to the whole world and just end up just being just a place to come and drink and eat, you know? You know, so, you know, knowing this, I want you to be more active participant, and I really appreciate your being here. This event today is very special because I am such a believer in a community. And if our community does not grow, we all lose. And I've been in Louisville 35 years. I mean, and I've seen it grow, and some of you may have been here maybe longer than I. I don't see anyone older than me, so maybe, you know, so. But the community is growing, and we want to build more momentum in related to computing, data, innovation. And you know, when the momentum reaches a level, it will take off faster. And it has been growing, but we need to reach this just extra step of momentum. And we are all, it's all of you together that are doing this. So I'm glad that you are all here. I'm thankful. And just to let you know, I will not go in detail about Grace. I've known Grace for a while. I have interacted with her briefly in one of her jobs before, and we talked. But some of you know Ted Smith. Anyone know Ted? So she's the better replacement of Ted.
I didn't pay him to say that.
She's the improved Ted Smith in the Louisville Metro. I love Ted too, but I mean, but in reality, she has the energy, so has the enthusiasm. And from my perspective, she's on the right side of science. She's more of a computing person. Ted was more on the other side. So I'm so glad to have her in the Metro, and so glad to have her accept to join us today. And I will just stop here and let her. And if you haven't been before, you should know the drill. Listen, because at the end she'll give you some questions, and we'll have our mighty Greg Reinhardt here will be leading, getting you out of the table, and table representatives will be responding to her questions. You know, thank you so much. And I didn't talk about her qualifications or things because you can read them. I think most of us can read. Go to Louisville, CIOLouisville.org. Her bio is up there. Okay, thank you so much.
So good evening, everyone. I'm going to try standing here for a while, but just so you know, I recently had foot surgery, and so it makes it a little challenging for me to stay upright for long periods of time in the evening. So if I might need to sit down in just a little bit. But I wanted to come here and tell you about all the interesting things that we're doing in Louisville Metro Government. I'm always impressed at how few people know what's going on, and in particular around what we mean by performance and innovation and why this would even exist. So first of all, how many of you all know that our mayor has created a Citizens Bill of Rights? A show of hands. Excellent. So as a rather civically engaged person, prior to joining Louisville Metro Government in August, I did not know that there was such a thing as a Citizens Bill of Rights. And one of the critical additions that Mayor Fisher added was a piece about how he wants to create a world-class government. And what he means by that is one that has both continuous and breakthrough improvement and innovation. And so how does one even go about that? If you have this, you've committed to the citizens that's part of their Bill of Rights, that they will have a government that's committed to this, how would you even go about it? Part of this is informed by the mayor's vision of what a job is. So for those of you who don't know, Mayor Greg Fisher is a serial entrepreneur prior to taking office in 2011. And as a serial entrepreneur of high-performing organizations, he created, for example, one of his inventions is a ice dispensing machine that it also is with a drink dispenser. And so that was an innovation. Before, you had drink dispensers, you had ice machines, but never the two combined. And because he was a innovator and a manufacturer, he really needed a high-performing organization to ensure quality control. And so for him, he studied all of the best research out there and came up with this model of what a job is. And so he demands this of every single person who works within Metro Government, as well as every department. The expectation is that, yes, you will have daily work. That will be the primary amount of what you do. But it should not be the only thing that you do. And so the middle piece here, slightly smaller in area, is continuous improvement. And what does the mayor mean by that? Through processes that are well publicized, like Lean, Six Sigma, and again, other performance improvement activities, can we not make incremental efficiency gains or improvements to the process? So this is what the mayor means by continuous improvement. Now finally, at the top of the triangle here, smallest area but nonetheless important is breakthrough innovation. And so what the mayor means here is that one, when one approaches a job, it's important to not sacrifice completely new ways of doing things, whether that's new processes, embracing new technologies, embracing concepts from other cross sectors and adapting and applying them to your own. And so he charges us to approach a job this way. And I'm pleased to say that because he recognizes how difficult it can be, given the demands of daily work, the mayor found it necessary to create 2 chief level positions when he took office. So I'm the chief of civic innovation. I have a counterpart, Daro Mott, who's the chief of performance improvement. And together we are jointly the Office of Performance Improvement and Innovation. Initially, we weren't in joint office. There were actually 3 different offices. There was the Office of Performance Improvement, a Louisville Innovation Delivery Team, funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies grants, and then Ted's role as Chief of Economic Development and Innovation. And so when we wrapped up Bloomberg and we were looking at how best to be a high-performing organization, it made a lot of sense for us to collapse the two offices and make it a joint office, or really represent two sides of the same coin. And the reason why we view it that way is because it's very much a system of feedbacks, right? So if you were to start with, let's say, high-level strategic planning that guides everything that you do, eventually you'll have processes that you want to measure on a regular basis, because you can't improve something if you don't measure it. But there are limitations to how far you can improve something, and you might need to do something breakthrough, in which case it makes a lot of sense for then Office of Civic Innovation to get involved. Likewise, the Office of Civic Innovation may pilot something, and then when we are satisfied with the pilot and its results and decide we want to scale, then we hand it back to the Office of Performance Improvement to aid and assist with the measuring, to make sure that we stay on track. And so I wanted to give you an example of this, how what we do is complementary, especially when we're attacking a single problem. So working with Living Cities, which is an organization that's focused on eradicating poverty in our country, we were looking at our various open data sets, and one of the sets is around fire safety, and it well aligns with the mayor's goal, one of his strategic goals around increasing fire safety in our community. So if you were to just look at the data, it would probably first of all confirm to you, where you would suspect most fires to outbreak that the fire department would need to respond to. So something that a citizen wouldn't have to be able to take care of on their own, something that Louisville Fire Department would actually have to respond to. So confirm certainly what we know. But if we looked at it a little deeper, there are two different approaches. So what performance improvement noticed immediately was that the areas where there were hot spots also overlap with areas that we deliver community services, and in particular on-site, so home visit community services. And they thought to themselves, well, wouldn't it be fantastic then if we were to enhance the workflow of those making these on-site home visits, so that they do an inspection to see if there is a smoke detector installed in the home. If there is one, test the battery. Does it actually have enough battery? If not, install one and give the owners or the occupants of these homes education around it. So here we were able to leverage data, combine it with other sets, and then uncover a new added service to one that we were already providing. It's no added extra cost. We already provided smoke detectors. It's just we recognize that there are barriers to these families receiving them. So why not make it frictionless and just deliver it to them at point of need? On the other side, innovation took a different tact. So we said again, yes, not surprised that it's outbreaking in these particular metro districts. Also not particularly surprised that a large number of these buildings were vacant or abandoned. So we do have a significant problem around vacant abandoned properties in our community, and it's something that we track very carefully. Some of the vacant abandoned property stock is Metro owned, but the vast majority is not. But still, even for the ones that are owned by Metro, what can we do? We took it a step further and said, of the fires that started in these vacant abandoned properties, there are a number of reasons why a fire would start in one of those properties. But what we concluded was, regardless of the path for how the fire started, no one is going to contact the fire department about it. Either there's no person present, or the person who's present knows they're not supposed to be there. And so there's no incentive for them to report the issue to the fire department. What was very surprising to us was how many of these fire outbreaks then spread to owner-occupied homes. So you can imagine, you live in a neighborhood, not terribly pleased that there are these blighted properties that are your neighbors. But in addition to that, one of them catches fire, most likely at night, and then it spreads to your home while you're sleeping. So this is a serious community issue. We recognize that this directly impacts our citizens' safety. And so how do how do we solve this now that we've identified this very serious issue? We first looked at commercial solutions, right? I mean, you would assume perhaps the private market has already solved this, and so we could just implement what's already commercially available. What we discovered is that all the commercially viable options were cost prohibitive. I mean, we're talking about thousands of dollars per home or per site. So we thought, well, since we have clearly defined the problem, right, and we have subject matter experts from Louisville Metro Fire Department, from Community Services, from the Vacant and Abandoned Property Public Administration, from Codes and Regulations, all who could clearly articulate the problem, why don't we open this up to our community, our citizen scientists? And what we were delighted to discover when we hosted a hackathon was that there was actually a very elegant solution that emerged. This is what we're calling our wireless smoke detector project, because right now it's in a pilot phase. You could think of it as a smoke detector. And so what we have in these homes that, again, Metro owned, we install a smoke detector. Then we install this separate device that is composed of three major components. It's solar powered because there's no power in these homes. It has a microphone that listens for sounds and converts them into waveforms, does matches to see if it's a smoke detector. And then there's a cellular card that actually calls out with the information to notify whoever needs to be notified. Very elegant solution, and it costs on the order of hundreds of dollars at very low scale. So we were able to build 10 of them for about $150 each. And we're piloting them right now, 6 months pilot. We had done testing in a controlled laboratory environment and recognized that because we're doing these waveform matchings, it really needed to make more sense for it to be out in the field. And in fact, we can shake out false alarms like train whistles or other sorts of noises. For example, low battery life on a smoke detector device. And so we're able to shake out these false alarms so that when we do deploy these at scale, we have a solution that doesn't cry wolf. So it's really fantastic that we have this project underway. Other municipalities have already expressed interest. And so here was a solution where we were able to provide the problem well framed and admit that we weren't going to solution, and instead leave it up to the citizen scientists and entrepreneurial community to come up with a solution. They own the intellectual property. They did win some prize money as a result. And what that means in turn is that we get a defined period free license from them. So really, it's a fantastic way for the community and government to work together for a win. So that's an overview of the office. I really want to spend time, since I now have you as a captive audience, over what civic innovation is up to. I certainly wanted to spend the first part of my tenure ensuring that there was continuity on TED's projects, and there were many. Some of them were wrapping up. So for example, our Bloomberg Philanthropies grant had wrapped up, and so we were wrapping up projects. There were other projects that were evolving and iterating, so that we need to ensure that the next iteration was handled well. And there were brand new projects coming online. So an initial pass was just to ensure that I had a good project portfolio and a good handle on what was going on so that we could ensure continuity. But then immediately I pivoted to working on what is special about civic innovation in Louisville. Historically, through a very organic process, it had been rather scattershot, right? You had this Bloomberg team working rather independently. You had performance improvement working independently. TED, in both his economic development role as well as his innovation role, all working independently. And so it resulted in a rather scattershot approach. It was also very new for our city. We didn't necessarily know what ambitious projects would have a lot of traction or would have a large impact in our community. So after evaluating our suite of projects, I have identified 4 major themes that really uniquely define what works in terms of civic innovation for Louisville. And those 4, I'll get into each one in subsequent slides, but they are smart city, but in particular, the intersection with the smart home, public-private partnerships around health, social innovation, and lastly, our amazing citizen engagement. And I cannot speak highly enough about that. It's part of why it's such a delight to be in this role. We have both very active, leaders in our city. So, for example, you all in this room, Leadership Louisville, and other sorts of civic leadership training programs, as well as down at the grassroots level. So our local maker spaces and hacker spaces, both public, like level 1, as well as private, so first build. So I really wanted to play this video. I think I'm going to play it anyway. You won't be able to hear it, so I'm going to try and narrate, if you will. We'll see if this works. We'll see if it'll even play. I don't see that.
I don't see it play.
Nah, it won't play. Okay, so how about this? I will make sure that everybody gets the link after this. So please, please, please watch it. The video shows is a demonstration of 3 smart city, smart home projects within the CNET Smart Home. And so I'm very pleased to say that one of the unique assets that Louisville has above the Bay Area, above Silicon Valley, above Boston, New York City, any of these other kind of innovation hotspots, is we have a very special relationship with CNET. And so starting in 2014, I believe, it was either 14 or 15, CNET decided that they would build a smart home. It's located out in the suburbs. It occupies many, many acres so they can have privacy. But they test across the board all vendor products related to the smart home. We convinced them to create what is called the CNET Smart Apartment, recognizing that there was a need that wasn't being met by the smart home. And what is that need? First, it didn't address an urban environment and the challenges one might have residing in an urban environment. It didn't address challenges around a renter base. So if you're a renter, you want to make sure that these devices do not require things like permanent installation, right? That you could take them when you move to your next rental. That most likely are kind of low cost, entry level type of devices. And so we identified this need, and CNET agreed with us. So they created the Smart Apartment. It exists at 745 West Main on the 5th floor. And there we co-collaborate around what sort of smart home technologies make sense in an urban environment, as well as then what that smart city, smart home interaction looks like. We decided to take this approach, first because we wanted to leverage this special relationship, and secondly because I'm not convinced that the smart city approaches that other cities are employing are necessarily the best way forward. So for those who aren't familiar, smart city is really kind of the civic, municipal approach towards the Internet of Things. Right? How do we put sensors everywhere so that we can kind of understand the heartbeat or the vital signs of a city? Chicago has a massive project underway called the Array of Things. New York City also has one. There are cities that are approaching this. Boston. They have much larger budgets, and again, they have an appetite for pursuing this without a clear use case, and that's where having a long career in data, I can tell you can collect a lot of garbage. And so I'd rather not use our taxpayer dollars to collect garbage. I'd much rather have us do very targeted solutions that benefit citizens immediately. So the 3 different demonstrations that we have, and again, gotta see this video. The first one is an integration with the Amazon Echo device. So how many of you are familiar with the Amazon Echo? Excellent. And so for those who aren't familiar, it's a voice assistant device that Amazon has created. You can, their primary business purpose is to order things from Amazon. But there's a really open field for exploration on how we might be able to use this to deliver information and services to citizens. And that's what I'm really excited about, is the opportunity here. We decided to go with Amazon Echo first just because it's a much more mature platform. Google had announced Google at Home a few months prior, but had not opened up a developer portal, so there really was no opportunity there. They recently opened up their Google Assistant SDK, and so that's something that we'll look at. But we're going to remain vendor agnostic, knowing that it'll depend on what citizens want, and we want to make sure that we meet them where they are. So like I said, the first one, we decided we were going to take our historical 311, so this Metro call data, and mine it for the most, topmost calls that we receive, to see if there's any way we could make that experience a bit less, reduce the amount of friction in the experience for the user. So if you can imagine right now, the topmost question, actually I'll put it out, what's a guess for the topmost asked question?
Potholes.
That's a good one. Fill a pothole. Anybody else?
Where do I vote?
Where do I vote? That's also a really good guess.
Junk pickup.
Well, Jason knows, he's cheating. So junk pickup. Junk pickup is the #1 most asked question to Metro Call.
Wow.
And if you can think about it, right, your experience is not something that happens regularly.
Right.
You know that it's coming, but you won't remember what those dates are, right? So makes sense that they would call Metro Call. But let's walk through the user experience. Right now, Metro Call is available Monday through Friday, 7 to 7. It's most likely you're not going to be thinking about junk pickup during those hours, right? So I'll walk you through a scenario. You're cleaning out your garage. It's a Saturday or a Sunday. You're dirty. You've got a bunch of junk. You say, hey, I'd like to find out when Metro's going to pick up my junk. Well, what would you have to do today? Stop what you're doing, clean up, go find a device, hope you search for the right keywords, read through a bunch of information to finally find the dates that you're looking for. So we said, how could we make this a bit more frictionless, right? With this integration, we've built what's called an Amazon Alexa skill. So you can ask Alexa for, that you want to ask city services what your junk pickup date is. She asks you what your address is. You tell her, and then she tells you the date. Just like that. Again, so how do we deliver more personalized information? How do we deliver information at time of need? How do we deliver, and this is what I'm really excited about exploring, localized information. So as we have an increasingly larger immigrant population, where English may not be their first language, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could leverage these technologies to deliver localized information in our citizens' native tongues? That would be amazing to me. And so I'm looking forward to exploring those technologies. The next demonstration, we recently announced this, is actually something that was well underway, is a partnership with IFT. And so IFT stands for If This Then That. It's a free web and mobile application that primarily is designed to help you automate your habits, and now they've spread into automating your homes. So for example, I use IFT. I've been using IFT for a long time now. I know how embarrassing it could be if my phone rings when I'm meeting with the mayor, for example. So I have a simple IFT rule that when I'm within Metro Hall, it automatically mutes my phone. And I don't have to remember or do anything about it. It just takes care of that. I have an IFT rule that lets me, it reminds me if there's a high chance of precipitation to bring my umbrella with me first thing in the morning. So these are ways that IFT already is very useful to consumers and to citizens. But we thought, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could leverage our open data, and again, take it to the next level. It's one thing to have an open data portal, it's another thing to have a data portal that's easily consumable. So I've been pushing the team to think of, how do we take our open data, and first, when it's appropriate, turn them into APIs, and then the next step, take those APIs and integrate them into IFT. So the very first one we did was around air quality. We thought it would be very useful. This is information that people would make decisions about based on the information. And so we've done multiple integrations. IFT has made it really simple. You don't need to know any coding. You just need to install the app. And then you don't even have to build what they're calling applets or recipes. You could just subscribe to one that's already pre-built. So we've pre-built 10 or so. One of them, you just get a notification on your phone on the air quality. So I could decide, let's say I have respiratory illness issues, right? I was planning on riding my bike at lunchtime, but because the air quality is bad, I'm not going to. And so again, helps you make these decisions based on this timely information. There's another integration that we're pleased with, again, tying smart home technology, is there is a color scale associated with our air quality alerts. And so green is good, yellow's not so great, orange is a lot worse, red is very bad, and then the purple for hazardous. There's some sort of hazardous alert. And so we have done an integration with a Philips Hue bulb. And so this is a red, green, blue bulb that can change through the entire color spectrum, and it'll change colors to match the color scale of the air quality alert. So again, make it really ubiquitous. You're in your house or your apartment, you see the bulb and you know. Or let's say we deploy them at schools. They see it and they know how they should handle outdoor recess time, for example. So there's endless opportunity there. Now, that said, this is very much push-based, right? Citizens are opting in, and then they receive push information. So we recognize that we need to balance both. We have Alexa, where it's a lot more interactive, and then we have these push-based notifications that citizens can subscribe to. The third example is, again, an example of why our citizenry is just so amazing. After we made these announcements, a local civic hacker said, oh, well, that's kind of cool. How about if I take, again, I'm going to look through the open data. The mayor's daily news briefings is an XML feed. I could easily convert that into an Alexa skill so that you can ask Alexa for the daily news briefing and get it. So we absolutely view this initiative as a two-way street. We'll continue to make, project suggestions where we put out to the community and do demonstrations to spark imagination. Hopefully they'll find it useful. But we expect citizens to come back to us and say, hey, this actually been really useful. Either, I've decided to build this myself, or how about you guys figure out how to build it for me? And so I'm really pleased with how that initiative has already started. And we just began the work in November, and we've come this far. Public-private partnerships for health. So how many people are familiar with the Air Louisville project? Not as many people, so that's good. I have something new to teach you. This is a project that's like I said, a public-private partnership. The partners include the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who's provided the funding. Propeller Health, which is a startup company, they have created a GPS-enabled sensor that takes a lat-long snapshot as well as a time snapshot every single time a person uses their rescue asthma inhaler. So it doesn't interfere with the medication, it also doesn't interfere with the inhaler, it sits in between. So whenever they take a puff, it records it. And so that we start to get actual real logging of medication usage. And then say the citizens a little, I would be remiss if I didn't call out the Institute of Healthy Air, Water, and Soil, which is local not-for-profit in town, instrumental in getting the word out and a communication plan around it. We have over 1,000 citizens enrolled. And it's the first time we have a true hyper-local view of where there are air quality issues impacting our citizens. So if you can imagine, I'm not from here, although I've lived here long enough that I think of myself as a Louisvillian. When I moved here, I heard anecdotally, we live in the Ohio River Valley, everybody has allergies, a lot of people have asthma, it's just the way it is. And so this office said, wait a second, instead of just accepting it as status quo, why don't we challenge that? Is it really throughout our community? Are there actual hotspots? If there are hotspots, maybe we can address them. And so by collecting this data, and I will want to point out that what's really fantastic about Propeller Health, having come from a healthcare technology background, it's passive, so you're not asking the patient to change their behavior, right? They're going to take a puff from their rescue asthma inhaler. And it also automatically logs. So let me tell you what the standard is right now in clinical care if you have asthma. You are given a paper notebook and a pencil, and you're told to write down every time you take a puff. Guess how many people really write it down? Guess what they really do instead? If they feel any guilt, they will use different colored pens in the parking lot right before their appointment to make up some dates, as best as they remember. So that's the best, that's the gold standard right now for collecting medication usage, either for asthma, for migraines, for anything that the doctor wants you to track. That's the gold standard right now. And so Propeller Health has really been tremendous, and I'll talk a bit about that in a bit. But first, the hotspots. So yes, there were areas where we didn't need this data to know that there was a hotspot. There's areas that are nearby point pollution sources, and so there are hotspots around there. There are areas where we have long suspected that, but what was very interesting were the places that, in hindsight, make a lot of sense, but weren't the first places we would think of. So, as it turns out, Shelbyville Road is a significant hotspot.
Sure, no kidding.
So I see the light bulbs going off. Anyone want to tell me why they think Shelbyville Road is a hotspot?
Shopping centers there,
But that's part of it, and then any other.
Stop and go traffic.
Exactly. So this is the result of mobile pollution sources and the heavy congestion that occurs. So what can we do about it now that we know this?
Synchronize stoplights.
Bingo. So we partnered with Waze to get traffic timing data. We get Waze traffic timing data today in 2-minute increments. So very, very low level of granularity. And using this data, we're able to do things like traffic retimings, where it may not be significant for an individual car. It might be a few seconds. But then when you add it up in the aggregate, we are removing a significant amount of both particulate matter and VOCs from the atmosphere. And this is something that traditionally we would have had to hire a traffic study. It would have taken at least 6 months of people sitting there counting.
Sure.
And we can do this now.
and it's
through data.
dynamic too.
Yes,
You
exactly.
can change it at Christmas time.
So we're working on that. We need better traffic
Yeah.
technology to be able to do that. But nonetheless, that's one approach we can make. Another approach is that there is actually a separate spin-off project that came from this called Green for Good. So St. Margaret Mary, which is both a church as well as a school, right across the street from Oxmoor, was a willing participant in this project with us. So we decided, let's try to measure an intervention. And the intervention we want to measure is the planting of mature trees to form a vegetative green wall. So prior to the intervention, pre-intervention, we convinced the school to allow us to both do detailed air quality monitoring to figure out what the ambient air quality is, as well as take samples from students and staff, biosamples, so that we could do biomarker testing for exposures to VOCs. Then we planted these mature trees, formed this complete barrier, you can't see the street now, from the school, as well as shrubs. And then we're doing the same thing. We're going to leave it in place, do the measurements on the air quality, and then do the measurements on biomarkers, and see what kind of impact this has. But again, what we hope to learn from this is, yes, this actually makes a big impact. We ought to have a more extensive policy around increasing the tree canopy, especially in areas where there are significant mobile sources of pollution.
I have a question. So the proper health sensor, is that part of the city's program, or was it somebody that you partnered with?
It's someone we partnered with. So this is a true public-private partnership. I mean, they're a private startup company. They recently raised Series C funding, and they're really expanding dramatically. But back to the citizens. So how do they benefit? Oftentimes, again, from a healthcare technology background, when you're dealing with chronic conditions, you tell them, do this for the good of humanity, right? Like, maybe you'll get something out of it, but this is for your fellow human beings. That's why you should participate in this study. We have seen a dramatic increase in what we're calling what's called a controlled asthma population. So a large number of the people who were enrolled in this program before were uncontrolled asthmatics. I mean, they would take something up to like 12 puffs a day. So clearly did not have a handle over their chronic condition. And we've seen that first through this passive monitoring, and then those who need it, very targeted case management, so nurses reaching out to patients, teaching them about their triggers, we've seen an 80% decrease in rescue asthma inhaler usage for those high utilizers of, so instead of waiting decades to maybe see if you've benefited from participating in this program, the participants are seeing it within the time scale of months. And that's incredibly encouraging for the citizens of Louisville, right? You got to participate and you benefited from this. Question in the back.
Well, because I work at MSD, and one of the things we do, we plant over 1,000 trees a year. I could just see you combining with them, or if they're doing a strip and they're repairing something, to add all those trees and then combine it and tell the public, like, hey, we're doing this because it cleans the air and you're going to have this benefit from it. I mean, it just seems like a natural fit.
That is awesome. So we should talk some more.
Yeah. And UofL has been recently recognized for the 6th year among the best tree campus
Yes.
USA. So I mean, it's a whole community thing.
Absolutely. I did want to check on time. Are we good on time?
Can you wrap it up?
Okay.
So
So I'll
No, we're that good on time. Wow.
Yeah.
It's
So-
just, it's just,
He's very,
Well, that's why I'm asking for timekeeper. Timekeeper here.
because I'd love to sit here forever. It's
Of
very
course.
Here's a way of food.
Didn't see that answer coming.
So social innovation, I'll do this example really quickly and then talk just briefly about citizen engagement and get to the call to action. So for social innovation, we're very focused on the problem of digital inclusion. We recognize that as we increasingly live our lives digitally, there are members of our community who are being left behind. Now, we don't understand necessarily who or how, so that's why we wanted to collect some data. This project that I'm showing you is, again, results of a hackathon now owned by a private startup company called Power Up Labs. It's called Speed Up Louisville. They designed basically a speed test that also collects some metadata that's useful to us as a city. And so what we can do with this type of information, and if you haven't tried it, please do, go to speeduplouisville.com and take the speed test when you get home. We can identify where there are actual connectivity deserts, and in particular broadband deserts, as well as areas where there's demand, but again, they're not getting the speeds that really they need to be competitive. You can imagine children are expected to do their homeworks on, online at home. People who are applying to colleges, do it online. If you're searching for a job, you're going to do it online. So this is a issue that we care very much about, and other cities are taking note. So recently this startup company was able to sell their product to San Jose, so there's now going to be a Speed Up San Jose. That's again Louisville going out to the coast and winning out there. And another city is about to come online as well. So we're very pleased with this type of information, and we'll continue to gather information as we continue our smart city efforts.
so, but you have to go to Speed Up Louisville and do a speed test.
That's correct.
So what about the people that don't have the computers to do the speed test or don't know about it?
Well, so that
So how do
actually
we find them?
that's next slide. Citizen engagement.
We have a speedupkentucky.org site for our department.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very interesting thing.
Yes. So part of what we do is a significant amount of citizen outreach. Again, to try and address the digital inclusion issue, we are about to open the Gigabit Experience Center. So I'm very proud of this. This is going to be at the Louisville Central Community Centers. We've installed a fiber gigabit connection into the building, and it will be open to the public. So right there, right next to Beecher Terrace, we absolutely expect to see a significant demand for the service. We've also done things like install public Wi-Fi, and Jason and Tim are both part of those projects where we make sure that either through, again, public-private partnerships with some vendors to install public Wi-Fi. So that's part of it. I mean, we work closely with community-based partners. We opened the Louis Lab so that my office, which serves as kind of the metaphorical front door for citizen engagement with Louisville, now has a physical front door. And so we are working with community-based partners, with our anchor institutional partners, to make sure that we reach the right people and get that information and solve their problems. I mean,
Sure.
that's absolutely within the scope of this office. So, question time. I have 3 call to action questions. The first is, now that you've heard about what we are doing for 2017 and perhaps beyond, are there any type of partnership projects you can think of that you would like to work with us on? Is the first call to action. The second one, do you have any ideas, or again, because you too are subject matter experts, that you would like to share to a broader audience? And absolutely, the Louis Lab is that forum for it. So we would love to host you when you share, let's say, do the same approach. Frame a problem, but let the community solve it. And then last